Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. I'm really excited about today's video because I got top 8 at another tournament. And not only did I get top 8 at another tournament, but it was the first ever official Master Duel tournament held in the United States. The first US Challenger Cup managed to place top 8. And yeah, I mean, obviously I'm pretty excited about it. Definitely looking forward to competing in more Challenger Cups. I think I'm signed up for every one this next weekend here. So I'm super excited to get some more tournament tops. I love playing in tournaments. It's, I mean, I like ranked ladder too, don't get me wrong, but I really like the feel of just like being able to sit down and just, yeah, do well in the tournament. It always feels good. So for those not familiar with the tournament structure, the way the Challenger Cup worked was we played 5 rounds of best of 1 for Swiss, and then we cut to single elimination top 8, which was best of 3. Another thing you might not be familiar with about the Challenger Cup is that you don't actually need to submit a deck list, and in fact, you can even freely switch or edit your deck as much as you want between rounds. You could bring Snake Eye round 1, and then Castura round 2, and then Mathmech round 3, if you wanted to. However, I don't think that's the best way to do it. I think sticking to one deck is generally the way to go. And I was actually going to bring Mathmech, funnily enough, because I felt I knew it a little bit better than Snake Eye, but after I made this build and then made the deck profile that we saw, or not the deck profile, but the deck update for it we saw the other day, when I was playing with this on ladder, I was like, this list is like too tight. Like I can't not bring this, and I'm very, very glad that I did. I played this for all 5 rounds of the Challenger Cup, and it did very, very well for me. Again, we're rocking the exact same build that I showed off the other day. However, there is one minor edit that I made to the extra deck. I had Nightmare Phoenix in before. I took it out and put Sprite Elf back in. And the main reason that I did that was because the rest of my extra deck was already geared for it, right? Like, we're already playing Formula and Baron de Fleur, which, I mean, you don't have to be playing Elf to be using these cards, but, like, I don't know about anybody else, and maybe I'm just not playing these situations right, but I never ever make these except for the line with Elf. I never go into Formula and Baron unless I'm doing the line with Sprite Elf, which, to be fair, I did do in the tournament. We're going to see that in one of the games coming up. Oh, also, I haven't mentioned that yet. Yes, we are going to watch all 5 Swiss rounds that I won in the tournament, and then we'll also watch my top 8 best of 3 match after I just talk about the deck a little bit. There's not too much I really have to say about the list that I didn't already say in the video I posted the other day, which I'll also link in the description below if you're interested in seeing that. Other than to reiterate the point that as far as the main deck goes, I really think as far as like ratios go, there's not much more I want to do with the deck. The only thing I could see myself potentially adding is Joel and Lockbirds to help against Max C. But otherwise, I love this main deck. I think the ratios are super tight. I think that the other thing too is that's really funny is we lost 4 of the 5 coin flips in Swiss and still went undefeated, still went 5-0. So my claim from the last video that this build wins 80% of the time you lose the coin flip, it still held true even in a tournament. The extra deck, I'm honestly a lot less sold on as far as like, I would argue that personally that I think this is like probably the best 40 cards you can play for the main deck, in my personal opinion, in the experiences I've had playing this list. Extra deck, I'm not nearly as certain on. Mainly the synchros, honestly. Like, and I guess to an extent in the main deck, maybe not even playing Jet Synchron. I feel like the more I play with Snake Eye, the more merit I see to the all-link build, because the synchros really only tend to come up if you have, like, a really good turn 1, that either you have a starter plus an extender, like Ash plus Diabel, or you just don't get interrupted, right? And that doesn't happen a lot of the time. So I think the links are... Like, I understand the merit and the value in them. And especially Nightmare Phoenix, like, even during the tournament, I was kind of wishing, like, there were some games like, I was like, yeah, I do kind of wish I had Nightmare Phoenix right now. But for me, I think the main thing that's stopping me from swapping over from the Synchro to the full Link build for this deck is really the fact that, like, aside from Nightmare Phoenix, there's not many other Link monsters I'm, like, super desperate to put in this deck. Like, I don't know, Anima might be nice. Maybe another, I mean, we already have the Nightmare Phoenix for another Link 2 option. It's like, I can understand why people don't play the synchros, but I don't necessarily have any other extract monsters in mind that I think would really be very, very highly impactful over them. Like, yeah, again, I know I just said these don't come up, like, super often, but again, stuff like Relinquished Anima or other Link monsters I think would come up even less often or about as often, so, but yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much else to say that again, I didn't already say in the video I posted the other day. So, let's go ahead and just swap on over to our tournament games. Let's start watching, starting with, of course, round 1. Okay, so starting with our round 1 here. Also, during the tournament, I did actually turn off my untapped, just because I wasn't sure how Konami feels about it. Not that they have any way of seeing it either, but anyway. So I thought I was playing in a mirror match, actually, when I was actually playing in the tournament. But of course, now that we can see our opponent's hand, because these games are of course played in a dual room and not on ladder, we can see my opponent was actually on a 60-card Unchained deck, with apparently a 14-card extra. I didn't realize that before. I guess this person is very eager for the upcoming release of Unchained. So we lost the coin flip. We're going to be taking the second turn here. They're going to lead with the Wanted for the DML here. Thankfully, we do have the Maxi and as well as the Imprim as well. And I'm actually going to fire off the Maxi in response to the DML being added. Normally, I wouldn't do that. Normally, if I'm going to fire off Maxi before they get the special summon, I want to do it during the draw phase to not get triple taxed. However, I figured here that, 1, my hand is already good enough that I don't need the draw for sure, and 2, they're on a 60-card deck, which 60-card decks are already less likely to be on triple tech in general, but even if they are playing it, they're obviously less likely to have then opened it as a result, so looks like they're going to end up going for the Diabell here anyway, and then they end up setting the Reclia, also drawing a second Imperm. It's definitely not too shabby. Yeah, they're setting the Sinful Spoils of Doom Reclia, as well as one of their Unchained trap cards. Now, of course, in hindsight, I do wish I would have used Imperm on the Diabell and not have to play through this. This is like one of the least used Sinful Spoil cards, so I was a little surprised to see it here. That's also another reason to not max C after they add the Diabell off the Wanted, because then if they summon the Diabell anyway, they know to get... I was expecting them to set Silvera, the trap card, but Reclia is also a little bit annoying here, but I didn't feel like it was worth it using my Imperm in this kind of a situation, so... I'm going to lead with my own Diabell, pitching Diabell here. Going to activate the Diabell effect, but I'm actually going to set the Sinful Spoils of Subversion. 2 reasons for that. 1, I already have the original Sin in my hand, so kind of no point in grabbing my second copy. 2, I need to address this Reclia because it has the ability to board wipe me at pretty much any given moment. So, but of course, in order to use it, they need to target a face-up level 7 or higher spellcaster they control. So, if I flip this up and threaten to put the Diabell in the back row, I can force this and then essentially not have to really worry about it, right? So, like I said, we're going to activate the Subversion right away. Opponent's going to chain the Rakila, however it's pronounced. That's going to destroy my Diabell. That's fine. I get to normal summon Ash and then activate the Sinful Spoils, the original Sinful Spoils for Snake Eye Ash, and then I guess my opponent just didn't want to play through it anymore at this point. I don't really blame them. I mean, I should just be able to OTK from here. Excuse me. But, yeah, I mean, that was my first round there. So, I mean, you're already seeing, and I really want to point this out with the opening hand. Let me hide this real quick. That, the reason I like this build so much is for opening hands like this. Hands that have multiple ways to disrupt, as well as multiple ways to actually, like, make your plays live, right? This is, and I talked about this a lot in the last video we covered Snake Eye in, but I think having these ratios, like, I try to get my deck as close to 50-50 when it comes to disruption versus, like, engine, right? And I really like having these ratios because you just open hands like this all the time. Like, if I have a hand where I only open one Imperm, it actually makes me a little bit nervous, which is funny because you think, like, oh, if you have Imperm, then you have some amount of disruption, that's good, right? But, like, I've gotten to the point playing this deck where I'm so used to having 2 pieces of disruption that I get a little nervous if I only have the 1 there. We do, of course, have 4 more rounds and then the top cut games to take a look at, so let's not waste any more time and go straight into round number 2. Okay, round 2, if I recall correctly, this was against 60-card Paleo, and this was also the only coin flip I won all day. Which, to be fair, if I'm gonna win 1 coin flip all day, I am glad it's against 60-card Paleo. Especially, like, look at my opponent's hand. Like, if I had gone second, well, to be fair, I do have Ash Blossom, but if I had gone second, like, I would have definitely been in an uphill battle with an opening like that, so... Yeah, again, our hand looks great. Look at this, multiple, and again, look at this, multiple engine pieces, multiple disruption pieces. This is exactly what I want to be seeing in these opening hands. And this is exactly why I am just so obsessed with the ratios that I've got right now. Again, as far as the main deck goes, for me, I feel like my main deck is solved. Maybe not fully. Again, I could see a world where either taking out Jet Synchron is correct, or putting in Trolls might be correct as well. But again, as far as like how I feel about this particular main deck performing in best of one, I could not feel any better at all. And yeah, we opened Ash, Poplar, and Diabell, which means we're gonna get the full turn 1 combo, and I mean the full turn 1 combo line. We're gonna make Borreload, we're gonna make Formula, we're gonna make Elf, we're gonna make Baron, we're gonna do it all with this hand. And we'll have Ash Blossom and Imperm on top of it, which is insane, especially into a hand that does not have any disruption at all. Yeah, when I saw 60 cards for both games, I was anticipating Branded, because I think that is still probably the most common 60 card deck out there. But funnily enough, I did not see any amount of Branded at all in the tournament. Not only in my games, but in the feature matches I watched too. I saw no Branded. It's kind of wild. Alright, yep, Formula F to draw. I'm even going to bin this Called By I just top decked for the Jet Synchron, which might look a little bit weird, but you know, we're so far into the combo line. If my opponent had something like Maxi or Valor or Ash Blossom that I could hit with Called By, they would have used it by this point. So I just definitely value the Ash Blossom and the Imperm more highly here as disruption. Alright, Flambridge putting the IP in the Spell Trap Zone. We got that all set up. Now we can make our Sprite Elf with the Princess and the Formula, and then Elf is just going to bring back that Formula Synchron. We'll set the Imperm pass over to our opponent. As soon as we get priority on their draw phase, I'm going to use the Flambridge to pull up the IP, and then whenever we get past priority on the main phase, I'm going to use Formula to go into Baron de Fleur. Opponent's first action is going to be for that Grasslook Screener. I'm absolutely using Ash Blossom, like, no questions at all. Not only that, but like I said, the first chance I get to, I am going to activate Formula. That way we can sync it with the Flambridge to go into the Baron de Fleur, and then also get back, I believe I get back Ash into Poplar here. I think I messed up the sequencing, like, very slightly, because I know you can go for, like, 4-mat Apo plus Link Kriebo, but I think I just end on a 3-mat Apo under the Sprite Elf protection here, which, like, I mean, I don't know, you could debate how valuable the target protection is, but I think more than anything else, I wanted to be able to go into Link Creep, which I can't anymore, because I don't have a level 1 monster on the field, to help protect the Apo. But I don't think that's really going to come up at this point, like in the duel, you know? I kind of figured, like, even if I didn't play this 100% optimally, I'm far enough ahead that it probably doesn't matter. I'm definitely going to negate this Reasoning with the Borreload. As soon as I saw Reasoning, I figured, like, okay, this is probably the Paleo build that Josh Schmidt has been talking about lately quite a bit, and I think that did end up being the case here. I don't know if it's his build card for card, but it's definitely, like, a... And I'm not saying that Joshua Schmidt's the only person who, like, plays 60-card Paleo. I just know he's been on it a lot lately, so when I saw Reasoning, that's what made me think of 60-card Paleo, right? So getting another Ash Blossom, definitely not bad. I'm going to lead with Baron de Fleur to try to pop a back row here. Poe's going to chain the Paleozoic Morella. I'm going to Ash Blossom it, just because I kind of figured they probably didn't have many other things left for me to Ash at this point, and I don't want them to set up Paleos that I'm going to have to, like, battle over or pop. It's just, like, in a nuisance, right? So I'm going to definitely Baron the Karma Cannon, and then they're going to Reckless Greed, which might get them some hand traps, but it wasn't something I was too worried about with the Apo, and it doesn't look like they drew any hand traps. I don't even know if this deck plays hand traps, honestly. Even if they had top deck like an Imperm, like a trap card, then yeah, that wouldn't have been able to get them anywhere. And then yeah, after not finding anything off the Reckless, opponent will just end up conceding to me. So there we have it. There was round 2. Let's watch round 3. Round three. What did I play against in round 3? Oh, this is my game against Dinomorphia. That's right. Dinomorphia with a deck I feel like I always lose to. So, yeah, going second against it, for me personally, not necessarily ideal. But again, look what we have here. We have multiple pieces of disruption and multiple cards to help us combo. I really just can't overstate this enough. Like, how important ratios are to deck building. Like, I won't lie, I feel like I won this tournament at deck building. I didn't win the tournament. I did not win the tournament. I feel like I topped this tournament at the deck building phase. Like, again, not to toot my own horn here, but toot, I really feel like this main deck is super good. Anyway, I'm going to use the Imperm on the Diplos here, mostly because I wasn't really sure if I'd get many other chances to use it. And I don't want them to set up stuff in their graveyard. I don't know exactly what they want set up in their graveyard. I'm not that familiar with Xenomorphia, but it's like, I'm good. So I'm going to send the 1-for-1 off the Diabel here, which might look a little bit weird, right? You might wonder, like, oh, wouldn't you rather 1-for-1, like, sending away Kurikara? But I don't know. Okay, so I actually value Kurikara pretty highly in this matchup. It's not even a thought that crossed my mind before I played in this exact duel. But I thought about it, and I was like, you know, if they have, like, Kent Regina plus Rexterm, Kurikara can absolutely just eat that board relatively easily. So rather than Diabeling away, and again, also, like, what else, like, even if I play out using 1-for-1 discard Kurikara, that means I have to Diabel away either the Ash Blossom or the Original Sin. I would much rather keep both of these cards, so that's why I elected to send the one. I will say 1-for-1 is another card in the main deck that I'm a little about, like, I have not main decked it in the past, and I could see not main decking it being correct in the future as well. So I'm going to use the Original Sin here to send the Diabel. Opponent's got an Ash Blossom in hand to stop that, though. So, oh, and then of course I'm setting Subversion because I already have access to Original Sin. I'm not even concerned about Original Sin on the follow-up because this card is stupid broken and has its own built-in follow-up. So we can just set Subversion even if I don't need it right this second, right? Could still end up using that Subversion on like a Rex turn later. So opponent is just going to smack me with Diplo and then pass after top decking yet another Ash Blossom. I'm going to top deck yet another Diabel here. So opponent uses Call By in response to the original Sinful Spoils effect on the Diabel. I think I talked about this in the last video, but I'll say it again here because I have people do this against me all the time. They'll use Call By when I activate the original Sinful Spoils second effect. Don't do that. I mean, unless you really want to negate, like, whatever card you're banishing, but, like, I don't care if Diabel gets negated here. I really don't. But using Call By against this effect of Original Sin does not stop it from activating, because let's read the effect here, right? It says, for the second effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one Snake Eye or Diabellstar monster in your graveyard, semicolon. Add one level 1 fire monster from your deck to your hand, then place the targeted monster on the bottom of the deck. So the reason that Call By doesn't do anything against the second effect of Original Sin is because the card does not need to go back for this to resolve, right? The condition and cost is to banish this card from the graveyard, then target that monster. Then you add, and then if you do that, you put the monster back. You would think you have to put the monster back as part of the cost, because that's how a lot of other cards work, but Original Sinful Spoil is just a really broken card, and you just get to search even if the monster gets banished. So, PSA, this doesn't work. Don't do this. Don't Call By against Original Sin's second effect. It doesn't work. As you can see, I still got to search the Snake Eye Ash here. Opponent is going to have another Ash Blossom for it, so that will stop me from setting off my plays in that initial way, but I can still summon the Diabel. Now, you might be wondering, again, why were you able to summon Diabel? Diabel just got hit with Called By, right? Let's read Called By the Grave. Called By says target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish it, and if you do until the end phase, its effects are negated, as well as the activated effects and effects on the field of monsters with the same original name. That's activated effects and effects on the field. Activated effects and effects on the field. Let's read Diabel. Diabel says you can special summon this card from your hand by sending one card from your hand or field to the graveyard. As I've mentioned on this channel in the past, this is not an activated effect. The first effect of Diabel does not actually activate. Furthermore, she's also in my hand, so that's why I was able to summon her off of Call By anyway. Opponent's finally going to activate their Frenzy, which I've been saving this Ash Blossom for literally this whole game. I've just been holding on to this Ash. Not that they've had anything else for me to really use it on, to be fair. Oh, except the Diplo earlier, but I'm like, I gotta negate that Frenzy. Yeah, no, so the effect to set a spell trap card from Diabel will still be negated by Call By, but yeah, no, the effects to summon her I can still use. So, I'm going to use Snake Eye Ash's second effect, because Ash Blossom only negates the activation of the effect. It doesn't negate the card's whole effect like Valor or Imperm. So I'm still able to go into the Oak. I thought about going for a Flamberge here, but I decided to go for Hita and Link Climb up to Amblawale instead. I just thought it was a little bit safer, mostly for having the Princess in the graveyard and having that form of disruption up. Gonna battle first because, of course, Hita plus Princess represents more damage than just the Ambler Whale. Also, one thing that I noticed while playing this duel live, right, is that as soon as my opponent's life points went lower than mine, they start getting past priority. And I know what that means. I know that means they have Ferret Flame, because this card has screwed me over so many times in this matchup. This card is probably why I hate the Dynamorphia matchup as much as I do. I think Ferret Flame is just a very annoying card to play through. I won't call it broken or anything. It's not a broken card, but it is extremely annoying. Got that Effect Veiler coming right on time. Opponent is going to flip up their Dynamorphia Frenzy, going for the... That is Frenzy, right? Yep. Oh, no, sorry. That one is Domain. Domain going for the Kent Regina. Kent Regina copying the Frenzy. Yes, that one is Frenzy. And that will allow them to get Rex Term. So now they represent Kent Regina plus Rex Term. I am going to use my Promethean Princess effect to try to destroy the Rex Term. Again, that's why I set up in the graveyard there. So get to bring back my Princess. And then I also get to use my Ambler Whales effect to bring back Hita. Rex Term will also get to float a level 6 or lower Dynamorphia monster, but that is absolutely fine with me. So the main thing here is I'm just looking to force out my opponent's Ferret Flames before I move to battle phase, right? And thankfully I don't have to try too hard for that. I'm going to use Princess to bring back Snake Eye Ash, and then opponent's going to flip up Ferret Flames there. Now, this Curry Car I've been holding on to the entire game, the whole duel, is finally going to come up here. Well, I'm going to Poplar as well. Poplar for the original sin. And yep, now I get to tribute their stuff for the... I knew this Curry Car was going to be important. I'm so glad I held on to it. I'm so unbelievably glad I did. And I think that a lot of the time, right, it's really easy to get caught up in the moment and not think about the long game, especially for like a combo deck, right? A lot of people who are playing more combo style decks like this are probably not used to thinking about like turn 5 or 4 or whatever, right? But again, knowing I'm in a control matchup and knowing they want the game to go on longer, I'm just thinking about that. I'm thinking about, okay, if this game goes on long, I'm going to need a way to get ahead later in the duel. And I knew Curry Car was going to be that way, so very glad I hung on to it and didn't pitch it for like 1-for-1 during my first turn there. Let's take a look at round 4 next. Alright, round 4 coming up here, and this time we are playing against Madolche, which I was very surprised. I was generally very surprised at how many rogue decks I ended up playing against in this tournament. I don't know if there just weren't that many Snake Eyes, or if I just got really lucky. So, again, opponent is going to take the first move here. And this hand, I mean, we've got multiple ways to start. We only have the one. This was actually the hand where I was like, oh no, I only opened Imperm. And it's like, oh darn. I got stupid lucky here. My opponent just like totally bricked and is only able to set Promenade and pass. But it's funny. I have heard that some people out there are actually taking Call By and Cross out of their Snake Eye build. I kind of understand it for going second hands like this. I understand where they're coming from. I don't think it's correct just because of Max C. I think Max C is far too much of a factor. But I will say this hand kind of makes me understand why people would want to take out Call By and Cross out. And I say people, I think it's like 1 or 2 people I've seen say that or heard about saying that, but I could see a world. I could see an argument for taking out Call By and Cross out and putting in like Drolls. You gotta have something against Max C though. Like that's my whole thing. Yeah, no, here I get to use the Call By against their Max C and then the Cross out against the Veiler. Believe it or not, I actually almost didn't activate Crossout here, which probably sounds really, really weird, but I do still have my normal summon, right? And I could have potentially normal summoned a Snake Eye Oak, but the main reason I crossed it out anyway is because I already activated the Poplar effect, so I wouldn't have, although I guess I could have just linked it into Link Cream with a Snake Eye Ash. Yeah, I actually could have let that go. Well, the reason I was even thinking about letting the Veiler go there is because I wanted to save my cross out for Nib. Instead, I just opted to Poplar for the Divine Temple to set up my Nib insurance. But in the process of doing that, I think I might have screwed myself a little bit as far as finding lethal here. I'll be the first to admit, I overcooked this combo a lot. Like, I really should have just gone for the Z-Atlantis OTK. I just wasn't thinking about it. So, spoiler alert, I'm actually not going to finish my opponent off this turn, but I really should have been able to. You know, sometimes when you're, oh, you know what? This is another situation where I really wanted the Nightmare Phoenix. I think what happened here for me is I got really scared of both the back row and the possibility of nib when you can see my opponent literally has nothing. So, you know, it was just me getting into my own head, right? Well, and the other thing, I was like, oh, surely I'll be able to do an access code OTK even if I do this weird workaround to play around the back row and nib. But I actually was not able to. I was falling, was like 1,900 points short here. So I'm going to end up ending on just Ambler Whale, which is really, really awkward. Yeah, no, I don't have much defense for myself here. I let the threat of potential disruption get into my head, and it made me play weirdly and badly. Not well at all. Bad, not good. But I have more disruption here than it might seem. Even if my opponent is able to summon, which they are with the Magellin here, as soon as they summon, I can use Divine Temple to pull out the Flamberge Dragon in my spell trap. And then I can use Flamberge Dragon to pull the IP out of my spell trap zone. So, yeah. And then when I saw Activate Chateau normal Magellin, especially Search Angeli, I was like, oh no, their hand isn't very good. Yeah, I think, especially because Modolce can naturally put up some graveyard disruption in the form of Glassiflay, I think if my opponent had like a workable hand at all, it definitely could have very easily been a huge uphill battle for me here. So yeah, tough breaks for my opponent not being able to find anything in their opening hand. But yeah, we have one more round to take a look at. Let's head into it. Going into this last round, we're going to be playing against Monadium, and I was feeling pretty good here, obviously. 4-0 going into the last round pretty much secures my tournament top. It's kind of funny, when you have 128 players but only 5 rounds of Swiss, yet again, here we are, opening multiple pieces of gas, and also 3 pieces of disruption this time, by the way. But when you're playing 5 rounds of Swiss with 128 players, that actually ends up being really, really cutthroat. Only people who finish 5-0 or 4-1 will top, and even of the people who are 4-1, you kind of gotta lose your last round in order to guarantee to get top cut with that record. So, yeah, it can be a little cutthroat sometimes with so few rounds with that many people. But anyway, playing against Seth, who I think is the same Sephiroth I see in the comment section in the Discord. So, if you are, hello, and you played very well in this game. So, actually, I want to talk about this for a second here. Imperm on the normal summon right card might have seemed a little bit weird, and normally if I'd only had like 1 Imperm or 1 piece of disruption, I would not have used it there. But when Rykard got normal summoned, I actually thought about Monadium before Scareclaw. I'm like, it's more likely to be Monadium. I don't want them to get the Scareclaw arrival. I guess to be fair, no matter which deck they're playing, it just represents enough extension that I'm really not trying to have to play through it, honestly, if possible. So they're going to pop the Meek for Vysis. I'm going to throw out the Ash Blossom here, which will make the triple attack in Seth's hand here live. So, and they're getting Meek. Here's the triple attack. That is going to end up ripping, I believe, my last Imperm. Yep. And then they get to Synchro Summon for the Baron de Fleur. So yeah, having to face down Baron and Maxi going into my opponent's turn here, going to Seth's turn. Draw phase, we get a Diabell, not bad. Seth's going to throw out the draw phase Maxi here. I'm going to normal summon Sekai Ash anyway, and then Seth's actually going to use the Baron de Fleur. I was actually very relieved when I saw this Baron get activated here. I was a little worried about having to play through it on my follow-up turn, but now I know I won't have to. Okay, so I'm going to summon the Diabell, right? And I'm going to set the original, or not the original, sorry, the Sinful Spoils of Subversion. Pitching the original Sin for Diabell's effect. Now, this let me do a couple of things. I can use Subversion to push back Baron. That'll stop the Baron de Fleur from bringing back really any of these monsters during the standby phase. Would be pretty bad for me. But if they brought back either Rykard, like if they brought back Rykard, that'd be extra bad because it would get special summoned, add arrival, link off into Lightheart. Lightheart adds the field spell, and then they have plays now, right? I don't want them to have plays. But also by pitching Original Sin, I can use its Graveyard effect. and then just add a Snake Eye Ash for follow-up plays now, and still be able to potentially use Original Sin on my follow-up turn if I need to search it off of Poplar or something. So I'll battle with Diabell, pass. Steph's got Maxi and Nib, so it just passes back over to me. Draw phase, I'm going to get Maxi'd again, so playing all of these turns this duel under Maxi. Gonna normal summon my Snake Eye Ash, but I figured at this point, I can just grab Poplar, give them one draw off of Poplar, and then grab the field spell, and actually the attack boost from the field spell will give me enough damage on board for lethal. So I'm like, I'm just going for it. I'm not going to combo anymore, I'm just going for it. Obviously don't want to give them more draws, and was worried about Nib, which they had even without the draws, so... that was GG, very well played, Seth. That triple attack came very close to messing me up, but again, we just, thank God we opened double Imperm and Ash, and Snake Eye Ash, Ash Blossom and Snake Eye Ash, and Original Sin. Again, just these ratios, mwah, love them. Okay, so there are our 5 Swiss rounds. So I did end up going 5-0 undefeated in Swiss there, which did secure my spot in top 8. Now, like I said, top 8 was played as a best of 3. So I want to talk a little bit about what my plans for games 2 and 3 were here. So the thing to know about the Challenger Cup rules, as I mentioned before, you don't have to submit a deck list. You can freely swap decks between rounds or just make minor changes to your deck if you want to. And for best of 3, this also applies between the games. So side decking, you could side deck into a completely other deck, right? And for best of 3, I actually prepared 2 decks for the best of 3 portion, right? For game 1, my plan was to use the same Snake Eye deck that I used in Swiss, right? Now, if I was in a situation where I was going first, my plan was to use, honestly, literally the exact same Snake Eye build. The only difference is that instead of effect failures, I wanted to play Droll and Lockbirds. Obviously, I don't need effect failure if I know for sure I'm going first, because effect failure can only be used on the opponent's turn. Moreover, I wanted a playset of Droll and Lockbird for use against Maxi. So let's say, for example, you normal summon Snake Eye Ash, you add Poplar, activate Poplar's effect to special summon itself, and they chain Maxi. What you can do is, and also if you have Droll and Lockbird, what you can do is summon the Maxi, they get the draw. Don't Droll yet, because you'll want the search off of Poplar, right? Get the search off of Poplar, then the next time you special summon and they draw off of Maxi, then you Droll and Lockbird them. They do still get 2 draws, but you still get to, do your whole turn 1 combo line, right? So that's why I like Droll and Lockbird in Snake Eye. Again, I've talked about this before, but I've seen some people, I've gotten YouTube comments before that's like, really, you're still on Droll and Lockbird? It's so bad in the mirror. But again, as I've said in the past, I think this is level 1 thinking. I think that only thinking about the mirror match, or really just deck building only to play exactly against the one best deck in the format, is never the way to go. Not only thinking about using cards in other matchups, but also using cards in other ways. Again, when I'm thinking about wanting to play Droll and Lockbird, I'm not even thinking about matching against like Super Heavy Samurai and Vanadium. I'm thinking about the Maxi, right? So, excuse me. So that's really the only changes I was going to make for my going first build. For going second, as you may have noticed, I actually intended to switch decks altogether. This is the going second to Kashira deck I intended to bring for, well, when I go second in best of 3. I will say this list was pretty rushed. I cobbled this together pretty much after the Swiss rounds, and I was like, oh, okay, I actually need to think about best of 3 now. So I was like, if I go second, I should just play Kashira at that point, right? Not only because Cash is, 1, a good deck, period, 2, a good deck to counter a lot of the meta, but 3, you also get to play Dimension Shifter, and if I'm going second, I want to be able to play this card, as well as, of course, a huge variety of hand traps, as well as some board breaker cards as well. So, again, as far as like the exact ratios go and which board breakers and hand traps I was playing, I would have ideally liked to have put more thought into this. But I figured for going second, just switching over to Kashira was the way to go. So, yeah, just want to talk really briefly there about my best of 3 game plans before we take a look at our top 8 match. So let's see that now. All right, heading into game 3 of a mirror match for top 8. The top 8 was Yeah, it did end up being the first time I actually played against another Snake Eyes player. Again, during Swiss, I thought my round 1 opponent was a mirror, because all I saw from them was Duel, but as we saw, they were Unchained, so... again, I feel the need to keep pointing this out, but we went second. We opened multiple pieces of disruption. Love to see it. Our opponent's hand, though, is also pretty cracked. It's pretty good. God, even opening the Jet Synchron here wasn't bad because they also got the Wanted. So they're going to start with normal summon Snake Eye Ash. I'm going to Veiler it. Even though I know they do have the originals, or the Duel, right, because of the Wanted. I'm going to throw out Veiler here as well, again, because I knew they added Duel. Opponent is going to use the Ash Blossom there. So we did manage to Veiler the Snake Eye Ash, but again, we also know they have Duel. So I know they're going to have plays regardless. And again, not only do they have Duel, but they even get to send the Jet Synchron off of it in order to summon her. So that's pretty good. That's pretty darn good. Duel is going to, of course, grab the original Sinful Spoils, which will be activated here, sending the Linkuriboh for Poplar. No, Oak, of course. Yeah, we don't really need Poplar anymore at this point, do we? Well, Poplar doesn't do anything here either, because... yeah, I don't know why I said Poplar. Now, here's Poplar. Yep, now they get to add the Field Spell F for the Flambridge, Ash F, sack itself, and the Flambridge for the Flambridge from deck. I don't know, I think I need to be doing this a little more often. Because there's a lot of times where I'll use the Field Spell to set up the Flambridge in the Spell Trap Zone. But even in a situation like this where I could theoretically send it off, I usually try not to, just to play around Nib. I think I'm a little too scared of Nib, honestly. I mean, it's definitely important to play around it, for sure, but... okay, so here we're using the draw... oh, and that gets them the triple attack. Yeah, this triple attack really sealed my fate. It's interesting that they use the Wanted draw during their turn. I almost never do that unless, like, during the same turn, right? Especially for turn 1, unless I'm, like, really, really desperate to find just something, right? Because for me, I think a lot of the value of this engine comes from being able to, on the follow-up turn, Original Sin for the Snake Eye Ash search, or Kurikara if you already have plays, and then also still be able to get a draw. So yeah, their board state looks a little weird here, but it's got everything they need. They've got the IP, they've got the formula, they've got the Flambridge. I'm going to use the Called By here. Opponent's going to chain the Flambridge. I mean, as you can see, though, I've got, like, yeah, nothing. Wow, I even surrendered at that point. I didn't even realize I surrendered right then, but I was like, you know, I can't come back, right? My hand is Flambridge, Original Sin, and this Called By I'm using. It's like, yeah, I got nothing. So at this point, I elected to move into Game 2. And since I lost Game 1, that means I get to decide who goes first Game 2. So obviously I chose to go first, and as I touched on before, I brought my Going First Snake Eye list, which is the exact same list, just playing the Drolls instead of the Veilers. I didn't draw a Droll, but thankfully my opponent did not draw a Veiler here. So going to draw phase Wanted for the Duel. Going to use my Duel pitching the Flambridge in hand. Gonna activate her effect. Doesn't look like my opponent has... wow, my opponent's hand is not good at all, is it? They opened both Flambridge. Of course, obviously, I didn't know this during the actual game, but... yeah, so here we get to open with both the Flambridge, or rather the Duel and the Poplar, which is kind of nice. I'm gonna use up the Divine Temple to place the Flambridge that's actually already in my graveyard into the Spell Trap Zone. That's usually what I do on turn 1 in this situation, right? Like, if I open Flambridge and pitch it for 1/1 or Duel, and then set up the field spell later. Because, like, I don't know. The only other option really was to set up the Original Sin. Or, I mean, Subversion, which doesn't really do much, you know. Alright, making the IP, Flambridge coming back. Pretty typical stuff happening here. Unfortunately, no access to Jet Synchron, so no Synchro plays for this turn 1, but it's whatever. It's going to be a pretty typical turn 1. It's interesting that we have Kurikara and Nib, because, I mean, obviously I'd rather have stuff like Veiler C or Ash Blossom, because Nib, I obviously got to nib my own board if I'm doing that, and Kurikara isn't going to come up for me until my next turn. And there is always a chance I could just lose on this turn, so... and opponent's going to Wanted. I'm going to use Flambridge to pull up IP. I decided to flip up my Wanted here too. Sometimes I like setting the Wanted as a bluff, but I do notice that sometimes having the game constantly ask you if you want to activate wanted does eat up a good amount of your time, like on the timer. So I wasn't like about to run out here, but I was like at 60-ish seconds. So I was like, you know what, I'll just flip up the wanted now and just to make sure I don't lose the time here, right? It's funny because everyone was memeing, like everyone in the tournament Discord was memeing about, oh, people are going to time, they must be playing Snake Eye, but I never came close to going to time in the round for any of my games playing this deck. It was all, literally every single round I ended with at least 5 minutes left on the clock, out of 20, so that's definitely not bad at all. I've been very fortunate, I'm going to knock on wood here, to not counter this in the future. I've also been fortunate to not really encounter anyone who I thought was so slow playing. Not just in this tournament, but really any tournament. There was one game where I almost said something about slow play, but it wasn't even because of the way the person was playing. They just had a horrible internet connection, and there was like 3 seconds pause between all of their plays, which was like so brutal on the timer. But that was a long time ago. That was in an MCS. Anyway, opponent is making Hita here. As you can see, I made the Apo and then brought back a bunch of my stuff during their turn, so they get to chain block the Flambridge, but I'm still going to use Apo against the Diabell here, because I don't want them to search out Subversion and be able to just put my Apo in the Spell Trap zone, right? So yeah, they do, like I said, still get to use Flambridge, but like, I'm not really concerned here because even if things really go super far south, I still have Nib. Again, I'm going to Apo negate Poplar for the same reason I negated Diabell. I do not want my opponent to grab Subversion off of either of those cards and just push back my Appaloosa here. Going for Link Rebo, putting Flambridge back in the Spell Trap zone. Hita, I'm going to negate that as well. Mostly because I didn't want Flambridge to, again, push one of my monsters into the Spell Trap zone. Was my main motivation there more than anything else. They still get to use Snake Eye Ash's effect. They also have Oak's effect as well. But they already used, like, Flambridge's Summon from the Grave effect. So they're kind of running out of stuff that they can really, like, super threaten me with here. And as soon as they went for Sleet, I'm like, okay, so they're going to go for an access code line. But I'm going to let them play out as much of this line as possible. Oh, I summoned Link Rebo here. That was a little bit early. Especially if I'm going to nib. But, like, it's not that big of a deal. I should have waited until after they pop stuff with access code. I mean, I guess to be fair, if they go after my... Well, I wasn't sure if they'd go after my level 1 monsters or not. I had 3 of them, so it's like, they probably wouldn't have, honestly. Yeah, they would have gone for a Flambridge for one of the pops. Alright, I'm just going to let them go play out the rest of their main phase here. I'm going to wait until... Actually, is that a 3rd Flambridge? Are they on 3? Because they opened 2. Here's 1, 2... No, okay, they just put back one of them. Probably with Original Sin. Okay, got it, that makes sense. And then, yeah, now as they go to end their main phase, now I'll Nibiru. Which, as you can see, yeah, it puts me far enough ahead, they're just going to end up ultimately conceding. So, yeah, managed to win game 2. That means we are going to game 3 where I will be going second. So let's take a look at that game. All right, for the final game, I did bring my going second Kashira deck, again, because I am, well, going second. And I had a lot of different cards I could have opened here. But the only disruption I opened was Ash Blossom, which was so brutal. I actually want to count this real quick. I had 2 plus 3 is 5, plus 3 is 8, plus 2 is 10, plus... I'll count Gamma-Seal and Board Breaker cards in general, right, as well. Plus 1 is 11, plus 2 is 13. I'll even count Duster here for sake of, just for counting it. Plus 14. 3 Evenlies would have made 17. 3 Imperms is 20. That's half my deck. Half my deck is Board Breakers or Hand Traps, and I only opened 1 Ash Blossom and then 4 Engine cards, including both the Field Spell and the Pathfinder. So that was obviously just super brutal here. What was even more brutal is my opponent having Gamma of all cards for the Ash on their 1-for-1. So... yeah, I think here, like, normally I don't like to say, like, oh, I just got unlucky. I don't like making that excuse, even if I think it's true, because I don't think it's very constructive. But I don't know what else to say here. I think I just got really stupid unlucky here. Again, just, like, not being able to open any of the things I really wanted to here. or a lot of the things I really, really wanted to here. Like, again, even one other piece of disruption. And again, also, my opponent having not just a card to stop the Ash Blossom, but Gamma, of all cards, to put even more bodies on the board and get a free Synchro Summon for the Bora load. It was just so, so brutal. It was so unbelievably brutal here. But yeah, no, I definitely got to give a GG's over to Ankylite. And of course, everybody else I played in the tournament as well. No, I think Ankylite especially played very, very well here. With the, I mean, playing the Gamma, you know, Gamma might be a card that I personally have sworn off. After just having not great experiences with it. But I will say that I don't think Gamma is bad in this deck. I think it kind of... I mean, that's the thing about Gamma, right? It's really, really good disruption, but it's also fairly situational, so you kind of trade... It's like power versus versatility, right? Gamma has a lot of power, it just doesn't have a lot of versatility. Whereas, like, Effect Veiler is a lot more versatile than Gamma, but is not as powerful, of course, only negating the monster effect and not also destroying the monster, and also not putting out 2 bodies on the board, too, so... Yeah, no, at this point I was like, at this point in the game, I was like thinking I'm probably just gonna lose. Playing through multiple Omnis with a hand like this is a pretty big ask. The only way I could really see winning here is managing to pull off like a Zeus line, but even then, it's like, we'll see. So I end up top decking Prosperity. Opponent's going to Flamberge for the IP. Gonna activate Prosp and beg we find an Evenly here. They'll chain Elf to bring back the formula. That's fine. And let's see what we end up revealing here. We reveal Theosis, Rise Heart, Ash Blossom, Imperm, and Shifter. So not a lot of very useful stuff. I ended up grabbing the Imperm and then totally just didn't even think about playing it like on one of these negates, right? Which was a huge misplay on my part. I should have used it on IP, honestly. I should have used it on IP. To be fair, it's not going to end up mattering. Even if I had Impermed IP, I still would not have been able to win this duel. Gonna use Unicorn, whatever. It's really not that big of a deal. Activating Birth, gonna use the Wraithsoth for the Scareclaw cache. Because it's the only other really level 7 extender I've got. Gonna use the Theosis to force out one of the Omnis. They still have the Barrel and Defleur, though. Gonna activate Scareclaw cache. Opponent's chaining Wanted. That's fine. Yeah, it's also too bad that I'm not gonna be able to battle over... Like, if this Scareclaw cache had even had, like, 100 more defense points, I could have entered battle phase and... potentially done something. Now here I managed to get my opponent to Barrel and Defleur the Cashier Birth, but again, they're still just going to have the IP here. Oh, hang on though. But if I had used Imperm, ooh, I think Imperm might have actually ended up mattering here. Well, no, because of the Promethean Princess. That's why it didn't matter. I knew there was a reason, I was just trying to remember it. So yeah, even if they had already, like, even if I had negated the IP and that would have resolved, right? Yeah, they still would have been able to Princess away the Titanic Moth or whatever I used to go into Zeus. So, at this point, I was like, yeah, you got it. I can't play through that. GG's, again, Ankylite. Again, GG's to all of my opponents here. Let's take one last look at the list I used as I give my kind of closing thoughts here. Okay, so that's going to do it for our tournament games. Hope you all enjoyed watching those. Also, just want to give a huge thanks to all the folks in the Discord server and over on Twitter who were cheering me on as I was playing. It's always very, very nice to have the encouragement of you all as I'm playing these games and in these tournaments and stuff. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm very, very eager to play in more of these Challenge Cups. I want to play in as many as I can. There's like... Again, I've already signed up for all of the ones that are available right now, and any more that come up, I'm going to immediately get on that. So, yeah, very, very much looking forward to playing in more of these tournaments in the future, and ideally being able to give you more of these Top Cut tournament reports as well. Yeah, again, like I said, I think that this Snake Eye list is, like, super solid. And I do think that sticking with one list for the whole tournament, even though it might be tempting to switch up between rounds, I think that really did make all of the all the difference there when it came to just keeping the games consistent and in turn keeping my mind consistent as well. I think that's about all I got to say now. So thanks, folks, as always as ever, for watching all these games and for hearing me out. Let's move now to our outro. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That means a lot to me. It's also a great way to support the channel, so thank you very much in that way as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways, like the very special patrons that I am thanking here, you can do so by checking out some of the links in the description. One of those goes to the Patreon, where you can join these fine folk and support the channel that way. I do post daily content over on Patreon, so you do get something for supporting there. And if you're interested, I also have a coaching tier option as well. Details again will be on Patreon in the link below. Also in the description linked below is my Twitch page where I stream a few times a week. You can go ahead and check that out, follow or subscribe over there if you ever want to catch me live. You'll also find my second YouTube channel if you feel like subscribing over there to watch some of the Twitch VODs as well as some additional non-Yu-Gi-Oh related content that I make over there. Again, any of those links you want to check out is all a great way of supporting. But again, even if you don't do that, just watching was also a fantastic way to support. And once again, I have to thank you so very much. But in any case, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, and I'm hoping you have a fantastic day.